I'm going to get us going so we can get a head start on everything. And we are just going to be so excited because welcome to the 16th MOAR annual holiday celebration. We've got quite the show for you tonight. And we're so happy that you are all here. You are going to be featured in an ugly holiday clothes contest. That means that Julie Bunch, Mary McVarish, and Hannah Page are going to be looking you all over to be able to see who's dressed the ugliest tonight. And if you win, you're going to get a good gift certificate to the place or whatever it is for your choosing. So that's going to be so exciting. And we want you all to meet and greet and chat. The other thing is, if indeed you need to have Spanish translation, then you're going to see at the bottom of the screen a little globe that says interpretation. And then you can click down if you wish to have Spanish speaking. So we hope that works. We've tried before, we weren't successful, but maybe at our 16th annual holiday celebration, we are going to be successful. Let's do that. And I feel so happy about that. And I do want to send greetings from all of our staff who are here tonight. And it's really just going to be an exciting opportunity for everyone. And I'm going to let you know that Noelle Sierra, who is going to be our most of the time the MC, I'm just saying hello to you for a little bit. And we have Noelle Sierra, we have Athena Haddon, our Western Mass Regional Coordinator, Mark Muhammad, who is one of our wonderful recovery coaches, Daryl Wright, another recovery coach, Julie Bunch, who just can't stand it. She's got to have 2 regions to take care of, and that's Boston and the Northeast. Scott Francis, who you'll see out in more. Yes, you'll see him more and more. You'll see him in Metro West and everywhere else. Kirsten Doherty, that does both our SOAR, speaking out for addiction recovery, as well as a new project of ours that's called the Parent Project. She's going to tell you all about it. Kim Krosick, I mentioned recovery coaches, but recovery coaches need to have a lead, and that was what Kim does. Julie Pike, who is one of our recovery coaches and areas facilitators too. And then Josephine Samard, as well as Keith Harrington, does all our communication and actually set up quite a bit for tonight. Then Stephanie Carlson, as well as Jackie Maloney, who do our areas, which stand for addiction, recovery, education, access services, which is all about how do we navigate this system of ours. Leah Randolph is helping us out with diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really wonderful. And we have 2 interns, one from BC, Hannah Page, as well as Mary McVarish. And we have an interim operations director, Jillian O'Brien, and I see our former operations director, Dawn Young, with us tonight too. So that's exciting. And then you are going to see our whole schedule, and I am excited about that. So I want for people to know too that need ASL and CART. And if you need any multi-pinning, the ASL and CART interpreters are here, and you'll see them on the right-hand side under the participant list. I do know that we will be having Emily Chisholm, who will be speaking for the deaf and hard of hearing this evening. But I want to know too, after all of this, is that what people need to know is throughout the year, we really believe in the visible, vocal, valuable, and in all of this virtual world that we have been going through the whole piece about COVID-19, as well as now with was it Omicron, want to really give a shout out to everybody who has been working so hard out on the front lines, helping everyone out in this big way. We've all learned how to work online, and we really want to be more in person with everyone. So I thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Boy, the last almost 2 years, what a road it's been. And you know, all of us together collectively have spent so much energy trying to keep services going, trying to help people who continue to need help. Even with all of that, we see so much suffering and so much despair and so many problems that need to be addressed. So again, for those of you, and Jen, thank you for your introduction. It's wonderful to be able to partner with you again in a different role. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Monica Burrell, and I'm a general internal medicine primary care doctor by training. I did train at the old Boston City Hospital that then became Boston Medical Center. Spent a long time working there, as well as 12 years at Boston Healthcare for the Homeless. And then from 2015 until this June was the commissioner at the Department of Public Health, where one of my responsibilities from day one was to help improve the way we think about this current opiate epidemic. And during that time, I really appreciated working with all of you, especially in the important areas of, number one, decreasing the stigma that exists related to opioid use disorder and addiction in general, and using all of your voices to educate around what this illness is and what we need to provide people with, not only in prevention, but when people need treatment, and increased treatment beds, increased opportunities for recovery. Worked very closely with MOAR and all of that work. And still, as we know, it's not enough. I left the Department of Public Health at the end of June. When Mayor Wu came into office, she asked me if I would help to work on the issues related to mass CAS. And I agreed to come on for 6 months to help all of these wonderful people who are already here at the city, including Jen Tracy, and all of you who have been doing this work for so long. So, you know, if you think about why mass CAS, and one of the reasons, so there's a couple of reasons that I came to city government to help at mass CAS, and that is one, the first and most important thing, which I don't need to tell anybody on this meeting, is that mass and CAS is a symptom. Mass and CAS is a symptom which all of you have been for the issues, all of the systemic failures, the injustices, the inequities, the racial inequities, the systemic and institutional issues that you've been advocating to change for a very long time. The city, and we're looking at the individuals who are there. I was on Atkinson's last week, going to Newmarket tomorrow, talking to people about what it is that their needs are. Jen Tracy has a recovery team that's there 7 days a week, talking, engaged, knowing the individuals, treating them with the dignity and the respect that they so deserve, connecting them to services. So there's a group of individuals, it's about, it fluctuates between now 150 and 100 and about 200. The most recent count was about 87 tents and 167 individuals who we need to address as a humanitarian crisis and immediately give them options that are real options, that are options for them to reconnect, to be offered treatment, be offered a supportive environment and a low threshold place that is housing. As we know, it was mentioned earlier, housing has to be. I think that
most people are in this mode of celebrating right now because it is the holidays and everyone has the right to do that. I think that I have a responsibility to shed some light on the folks who do not celebrate, who are struggling as we speak, who don't have freedom because they're sitting behind jails unjustly, because they're in situations on the ground. It's not just mass and CAS. I know that Boston gets most of the attention in the state, but we have mass and CASs all over the state. We have people suffering and on the ground. We have people living on the street, on the bridges and in parks all over the place. And we see that human condition on a daily basis. I think that to a certain degree, the system has dehumanized us, where we think lesser than of people who live in those conditions. And I know that I have been impacted by the dehumanization. And so I call upon us to celebrate, but to celebrate with caution and with respect to those who cannot celebrate, who will not celebrate, and to those families who today learned that their loved one died, that their loved one passed away, that their loved one is in a situation that is very difficult, right? And I know that each and every one of you bring that level of empathy and compassion to this work. But I also want to talk about the strength of the recovery community, because we are part of a movement that is 23 million plus strong in the US. And here in Massachusetts, we have thousands and thousands of people who identify as being in recovery. And we have thousands of people who don't identify as being in recovery, but they identify with no longer using substances because of their process of faith. They identify as no longer using.
And so a lot of what he talked about is about what treatment was and how people thought years ago. And, you know, as we grow, we learn. And what we learn is that, you know, we're individuals. What we learn is that in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that if there is a way for us to be able to truly understand and commit to making change, then the only way that can happen is like what Hanir said. We used to do what's called treatment on demand. And we would march down to the State House and we would stay there, and we'd be on the outside of the State House. And a guy named Moses Saunders was one of the people who started treatment on demand. And so we picked up the baton and carried it after Moses passed away. And now it's your responsibility to understand that every time that Miriam Frangoulis has some kind of an event where there are people there that have been around for a little while, and there are people there that are just coming in the doors, that she's doing it because she, like I know, and Hanir and others like Jen Tracy and all of us know that at some point we're going to have to pass that baton on. And so it becomes the responsibility of each of you to really get up underneath anyone who has been a part of this movement for as long as we have, and learn from us, but also know that the only thing that makes us helps us to move forward is that we allow ourselves to learn from you. And that's a big part of what recovery is all about. It's about humility. It's about knowing that I don't know everything. It's about, what do they say? Put the cotton in your ears and take it out. Put the cotton in your mouth and take it out of your ears, and just listen sometimes. And that was hard for me because I'm a talker, you know, and I just knew that I knew I could talk my way out of anything. But when I started to calm down and when I started to humble myself is when my life began to change. So we're in this holiday season. There's a lot that people get triggered around the holiday season, but know that if you have not had a drink or a drug just for today, know that you are successful. Know that that every day that passes by, and as you're in this season, every day, wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and find something to be grateful for. Thank your higher power, or your greater self, or God, or whatever is, whatever is greater than you. Thank that entity.
And bringing together thoughts. And it's the most wonderful time of the year, or is it? Not for everyone, not for everyone. And so let's lift up ourselves, or anyone that it may not be, and recognize a moment. Let's take a moment. And names that have just been mentioned: Steve and Paul and Shauna, family, friends. Those names inscribed in our hearts. And during these fragile and challenging times, we turn different spiritualities, different backgrounds, different faces, different creeds, different colors, different cultures, and come together on those many pathways those many pathways onto the path of the gift of recovery, and maybe celebrate that gift of recovery, and lift that up in whatever background you may choose. Maybe Allah, Adonai, Lord, maybe nature, maybe
Season.
various
But I'm going to start
spirituality.
my gratitude with shouting out gratitude for the board of directors that works with me, starting with Father Joe White, who is our president, Joe Kelleher, Trudy Avery, Davis Carter, Sarah Coughlin, VJ Dalal, Tom Delaney, Vicente Sanabria, Della Blake, Danny Ginnivan, Emily Grafe, and Chelsea Orafice, a group of people who spend their time thinking about the recovery community and helping support Mary Ann and the staff at MOAR provide the services that are needed to keep this community together, to advocate for the change. Hanir talked about policy change. Advocate on a daily basis. Help form and shape opinion to reduce the stigma of addiction, to reduce the stigma of even people in recovery, to have people speak out and take action for their recovery. You know, recovery is real, and Scotty will remind you of that, okay? But you know something beyond that, what's real is the familial feeling of us coming together in a holiday to show the spirit and belief that we can do together what we cannot do as individuals. And I think that that's really the message that's most important.
Noel,
If you're
take
on
it
this
away.
call-
All right, all right, all right. Now I have to follow all those individuals that just spoke. What an amazing cast of individuals. You know, first and foremost, I just want to, Hanir, we're praying for you. We're praying for your family, man. We hope and pray that everything works out well. You know, and we just honor everyone that's here, everyone that's speaking. I welcome you. Welcome to this holiday celebration. Bienvenido a todos aquellos que están aquí, a todos aquellos que hablan el lenguaje de nuestros padres. Le damos la gracia, la bienvenida. Happy holidays to everyone. And let's rock and roll because we're already behind time. So our speaker, our next speaker is going to be part of the SAMHSA New England Regional Administrator, and she goes by the name of Taylor Bryan Turner. Take it away, Taylor.
Thank you so much, Noel. And I second you. I don't want to go behind the president and Miss Randolph and the jefe, Dr. Hanir Hernandez. But he says a lot of what I want to say but can't say. So all I can say is amen. And so blessed that I got to work with him and meet him in person this year. Blessings, Hanir. Good evening and happy holidays, everyone. I just want to use this time to give gratitude and just talk a little bit about what SAMHSA has been up to help our efforts in this work together. I'm so honored to be here on behalf of SAMHSA's regional office with Tim Jean and with Tom Coderre, our regional administrator, on our minds because he's still serving Washington. I'm just in awe of all of you. All I've learned from MOAR members since I came on board last March, this team, this commitment and passion is simply the best. You just bring so much joy and pride. And I want you to keep the advocacy going. Keep the faith, keep the courage. You're facing racial disparities head on. Addiction and mental health, confronting biases, deaf blindness prioritization and excellence exhibited here today. Asking the tough questions like where is the justice? Where is the access? Where is the diversity among funding opportunities?
So, you know, I always give this quote that I picked up at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting that when you're in a meeting, your addiction is in the parking lot doing push-ups. I still love that one. And so I wasn't going to meetings. So my addiction that was getting so strong that when I turned 50, had everything I wanted in life, but I wanted more because addiction is a disease of more, right? Not this more, the bad kind. So I started gambling and, you know, I tipped over. We never know when we tip from sort of okay, you know, social something to craziness. And I was a slot machine addict at casinos. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I started stealing money from my work, much less myself and my family. I ended up going to jail for 2 years, which was fine. I was taking responsibility. I had found recovery at GA a year before that. And, you know, I got out of jail. I can't believe it's been over 10 years since I got out. It's a freaking miracle that my life has gotten as good as it is. And no, I didn't start out with my usual start out. It's a great day to be in recovery, isn't it? You know, Yahoo! And I'm so, you know, it is such a miracle. Every time it's a miracle. My son was 7 when I had to say goodbye to him in the back of the minivan and say, I'm going to jail. And now he's 23 and working full time and really good guy. And, you know, so for gambling, for those of you who don't know, I've been touring the state. I haven't made it to all the new peer recovery centers because there's so many of them. I'm like, what are you trying to kill me, Julia? And I spread the word about gambling, problem gambling, because for folks in recovery, you're at risk. So one, gambling is never a risk-free activity. And for those in recovery, it is especially risky because of the co-occurring factors, all right? I always give these stats because
but I was still in a place where I couldn't accept the truth about my deafness. I was too deep into my addiction to advocate for myself. And honestly, I didn't do my job on that. When COVID hit and the world put on a mask, my entire ability to understand the world around me was shattered. I became extremely isolated, lonely, and depressed. My whole world shut down and my addiction spiraled out of control yet again. November 3rd, 2020 is the day of my life that I hit rock bottom again for the 100th time. 2 DCF workers came to my home wearing masks and without an interpreter. They decided that my son needed to be removed from my care. I remember packing my son's things to go to foster care. It was truly the darkest moment in the days following. I could not eat or sleep. DCF wanted me to go to another program, but with COVID and masks, there was nothing even open. In my darkest hour, I faced the truth. I am a deaf addict. I need 100% communication access, and I need to find others just like me who understand what it's like. Only then would I have the chance at long-term sobriety. By the grace of God and my deep dive on the internet, I found Karen Larson. I connected with her the following day and told her I needed help. I found that there were Zoom meetings out there and other deaf addicts and alcoholics just like me. I will never forget going to my first all-deaf ASL Zoom meeting. Wow. It was an first all-deaf Zoom meeting. It was so inspiring to me. Someone told me, welcome home. I went to these meetings every single day and sometimes twice a day. I went to AA, NA, all recovery, and recovery.
So yeah, I'm going to talk really briefly because I want you guys to have an opportunity to hear from the Step Rocks family. But SOAR is about supporting the peer recovery support centers and recovery community organizations across the state. I started in 2015 at MOAR. We've gone from 10 peer recovery support centers to 36 in a 6-year span. And well, 26 of those are BSAS funded, but there's another 10 out there that are funded in different ways. And we're going to have 5 more eventually soon. And so the more, the better for sure. They're just a huge resource and a lifesaver for so many people. And so I want
about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you know, we design our programs and all our services around it, but there's always more that we can do to provide an environment where all entering our centers feel welcome and feel like they belong. But I can't speak about Step Rocks without speaking about how we came to be a recovery support center, since we didn't begin in the traditional way that recovery support centers typically begin. In 1972, STEP, Sobriety Treatment, Education, and Prevention, opened its doors at 131 Beverly Street in the North End of Boston, offering free peer-to-peer services to anyone seeking support for alcohol and or drug issues. As early as 1972, STEP Inc. was the prototype of how recovery support centers continue to deliver services in 2021.
Into the world.
STEP was
Members found a sense of belonging over a cup of coffee with people from several different walks of life. Yes, Step Rocks has evolved over the years, stretched and been reorganized over time. We started out as one of five, like Loretta said, and now we are one of 26. Now we enter our next phase at 153 Blue Hill Avenue in Roxbury. We are excited to see how this new chapter will play out. Our members have high hopes and great expectations, and the staff stand beside them, cheering them all. And we hope that you will stand with us, that you will collaborate and visit with us. These past 2 years have shown us that we truly are in this wonderful thing called recovery together. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we need one another, not just now as we sing Deck the Halls, but every day as we strive to fill the rooms of our centers. Recovery centers cannot operate in a vacuum. We need one another, not only for referrals and trainings. We need one another to lean on, to grow together, to support each other. We are not in competition. As our doors begin to reopen, let's continue to learn from one another. Let's take this spirit of collaboration that we found over these past 2 years into the next year. Let's gather a spirit of determination, cooperation, and participation. It's a new year on the horizon. Let's join hands, no matter our zip codes, beliefs, or ethnicity. Let's walk together into what's next. Happy holidays. I hope you would just give me one more moment to say one more thing in verse. Much has happened these past 2 years. We spent a lot of time facing our fears and wiping our tears and learning to operate new technical ways. The world had to face the worst of themselves. No more hiding in stealth. Pull the lies off the shelf. Stop hiding in your wealth. Your cover was blown and the world saw what many of us have always known. So what good news can I share today? What did I come here to say? Amidst the noise, the pain, the fear, and the shame, something broke through. Something came. These past 2 years, I felt a shift. COVID had locked us down, bound. I lifted my head and I saw a gift. Listen to what I found. Through the uprisings and the news, a new thought began to fuse. These masks, they put us on task. Everything wasn't always doom and gloom. I found a gift in something called Zoom. I watched all of you come into the room. Being alone wasn't always a bore. I joined the room and my thoughts began to soar. Often the silence broke with a roar, but look what came through the door. New friendships were found, allies were forged, collaborations were made, and honesty came out of the shade. White, Black, and brown. We had smiles and we had frowns, but we laid down our cards. We said what was hard. Now that was a gift. I saw the cloud begin to lift. Many of us wanted the conversation, but were afraid of the obligation. The POC began to fight, determined not to take another slight. We stood together, demanding what was right, holding on with all our might. Excuse me. We weren't sure that we were able or that we could, but we knew someone had to. We knew someone should. So Brown University, MGH, OBAT, and more, along with others, opened the door. You see, all the gifts unpackaged with bows, they come in ways that you'll never know. We've been graced these past 2 years, blessed in ways that brought us to tears. Once we were faced with an invisible assassin, our centers were closed and everything froze, but we locked inside and came alive. And there beyond our walls, we didn't stall, we answered the call. And though sometimes we felt some gloom, we still logged in on that gift called Zoom. And due to the gift of compassion, we all learned to serve with a brand new determination. We found the gift of collaboration and we wrapped it up in cooperation. I pray for the next generation. I still know why the caged bird sings. Let those words in and let them ring. Thank you.
I gotta tell you, every time I'm invited to be in community with you, it's an incredibly awesome and a little intimidating, quite honestly. This is a community of people who are so incredibly strong, inspiring, and I thought of this community early on in the pandemic, and I remember I was here with you, and I talked about, like, if there's any community to look to about what resilience means and what determination means and how to actually practice harm reduction, right? Because this is what we're all trying to do, quite honestly, through this pandemic, is reduce harm to ourselves and to our loved ones, right? And we're always making mitigated choices. It is the recovery community that we need to be looking to. And I just want to say to all of the incredible people who have spoken, I continue to find a lot of humility and importance in your words and in your experience. And I'm just here tonight to say that, as a state representative, I represent Cambridge. I'm also chair of a statewide committee on public health. Last session, it was on mental health and substance use. This year, it's public health. But I know that I have an incredible obligation to our community at large throughout the Commonwealth. I'm grateful to Speaker Mariano for this privilege of being in this space. And what it has meant for me is to continue to listen to those impacted by substance use, both those who are struggling with substance use and those who have loved ones who are also impacted by that, right? Because we know that this impacts community, it impacts neighborhoods, it impacts families. And that I'm just here to just, for those of you who haven't heard me, to say, I know my job is to listen. I know my job is to learn and then to work in partnership with so many of you and translating that to how do we improve the response to those who are in recovery and those who are still struggling with substance use.
Happy holidays, everyone. This is without a doubt one of my more favorite evenings of the year. As Marjorie mentioned, I am someone who is in long-term recovery. There may be some folks in the audience tonight who are new to MOAR or new to the world of recovery. I thank Marjorie again. I do feel that being a legislator in recovery and then being able to speak on behalf of the recovery community, it's an unbelievable honor for me to have that opportunity. And it's an unbelievable honor for me to be able to go to work every day for the citizens of the Commonwealth and the citizens of the 14th Worcester District, and know that, I'm going to work with a clear head, no illegal substances in my body, not hungover, all of the different things that regrettably I was guilty of many years ago, right? And hearing Loretta and Lorraine, I said, I have to follow these two women. That's not fair. Their message was so tremendous. And here I am trying to follow those two women who obviously are in recovery and get it, right? But I appreciate the opportunity. And I want to just speak a couple of moments about, and I think that's really why I was asked to come on. We have a bill that, again, Chairwoman Decker at some point will have some final say about, and that is, an act relative to recovery coaches. And I certainly appreciate and recognize, the strong support that we all have for this bill, what it's targeted to do, what we want it to do. Behavioral health and peer-to-peer support is something I think we all believe is very important for the recovery community.
First, I would love to recognize MOAR's efforts through the past year, as well as the contributions from the entire substance use treatment, harm reduction, and recovery provider community. This has definitely been a year of challenges and losses, but also a time of great strides and reasons to celebrate, especially with each other. MOAR, you've been key partners in our efforts to protect vulnerable populations during COVID-19. You've been important ambassadors to the public as we continue to educate everyone in the Commonwealth and across the country the value of recovery from addiction. And you are paramount amplifiers of our message that recovery is possible, that treatment works, and that stigma can be eliminated through the discourse around drug use. So this year has been tough for all of us, and I want to recognize the lives that we lost to COVID, to overdose, and to despair. And as we're all acutely aware and have mentioned, we lost Paul, a social worker and activist in recovery who devoted his life to fighting for the rights and dignity of people with substance use disorders in Boston and throughout the Commonwealth. But most importantly, Paul was my friend, and he was for more than 20 years, and he was friends with so many people here. And I just want to remind people, there's nothing about us without us. So Paul's story underscores how difficult the journey to recovery can be, and how a compassionate, consistently supportive community is essential at every stage of recovery. And his passing and other people's passings need to strengthen our resolve to continue supporting each other, supporting people like Emily, making sure that she's not alone with a mask and no lips to read. I was just really touched by that story. But we need to continue to support everyone with substance use disorders and continue doing everything in our power to combat our addiction crisis.
Here in Massachusetts, we currently have 25 open BSAS funded peer recovery support centers, many of whom are on here tonight. So shout out to the recovery support centers, and as well as growing number of centers that are about to come, including many non-BSAS funded centers who have popped up all over the Commonwealth. So hello to all of you who are on here as well. And we recently did an RC scan, which was a recovery coach scan, as a follow-up to one performed in 2018. And the growth of the recovery coach providers, supervisors, and coaches in the Commonwealth is exponential. RC services are being provided in various systems and settings in ways that it has never been done before. And this is all very exciting. But with growth often comes growing pains. And what that looks like right now to me is having a town or neighborhood that desperately needs this type of support, receiving a recovery support center and pushing back on the opening, or recovery coaches being implemented in places that are not really educated on the role, so they go under supported. So while the growth is exciting, there's also some painful parts that have to take place in implementation. And while we're in this period of education that needs to happen and quality assurance catching up to the implementation of peers, it's critical in this growth that those delivering peer recovery support services
out in Springfield, and I really didn't know too much about the helpline. So that was a big part. And we talk about many pathways, right? And I always mention this in the beginning of my recovery. I had a sponsor, a recovery coach, a therapist, and also a substance abuse counselor, because I did Vivitrol for the first 6 months. And they each played a different role, a different part of my recovery. And that was very important because like they said, You don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't put all your recovery in one basket, right? You don't put all your recovery in one pathway. Part of my recovery, not just from the challenges or I had with drugs, but also from gun violence. And that was a big part of it. We look at recovery, and I'm gonna cheat a little, Samcha. I know we got some Samcha supporters out here, but recovery, they says a working definition, and I coach recovery, right? Because I work as a recovery coach and I coach recovery. But we talk about the working definition of recovery, and it says it's a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, right? So when I look at that, I look at the drugs and alcohol wasn't my problem. That was my solution. The guns wasn't my problem. That was the solution, right? So once I put down the guns, once I put down the drugs and alcohol, then what? Had to start working on me. And that's what recovery is talking about for me. Recovery is not what I'm not doing. Recovery is about what I'm doing today. And Central also talking about it's a working definition.
Out, and that's true. There's many other things that we have to open up, and it's not only just what these folks are dealing with. It's when they hear only opioid crisis, but they're having problems with alcohol, and it makes them feel left out. So it's like opening arms to everybody. It's challenges for these people. And so working with my tribe, I do, I have, and I've heard tonight too of like, we have to do more than, my big thing is to help heal the soul. You know, so I'm not seeing this round, like it's like a circus kind of, you know, round and round. In the Cape, it's very small there. And we have 2 recovery areas. And, you know, a lot of the times they'll go into detox, they'll go into the treatment, and they'll come out for a little while, relapse, because they're going right back into the same communities or the same household family. There's no change, and it's here, you know. So I teach a class also on Tuesday evening. I'll show you my book real quick. It's A Red Road to Wellbriety. This is like the Native Bible. What it does, it also gives a lot of stories of what people have been through, Native people, how they grew up. And if they saw generation after generation just with multiple alcohol abuse, or, you know, and then you learn how to live in that environment, and you keep it quiet, you're silenced, but you're going around so hurt. So it's really getting to these, your soulish issues, you know, because we can stop the drinking and the drugging and doing all this, but we have to get to the minds of these folks. We got to be able to get to like what got you here, what's going on. So like the counseling, we have the one-on-one and we have all of that, but we got to get to them. And with my people, there's a lot, I can speak and say there's a lot of hurt.
My neighborhood, because of my family members. And, you know, alcoholism, you know, ran, you know, strong within my family, but they were the working type, you know? So it's like, who would say anything about that? But I did not know that there was a way for me to get out, right? So I suffered for many years, right? And we talk about, Dallas spoke wonderfully about the different types of recovery. And my recovery is from trauma. My recovery is from gang life. My recovery is from the drug selling life, guns and all that, because that's what happened in my neighborhood, unfortunately, right? But I did not know how to get out. And prisons was a part of my story as well. And I haven't been back in jail since 2006, so I'm doing pretty good, you know? And so here I come in recovery. The disparity hit. You know, and suicide was the only thought that I could ever have from having any type of freedom from this horrible disease of addiction. And every time I tried, I wasn't successful. And I do not mean to use these words and try to disrespect anybody, but my higher power, my God saw fit that I made it through so I could have the bigger job to do. And that's to fight this disease of addiction and help people recover and find a new way of life, right? So I began this road of recovery. And at that time, to be very honest with you, the word recovery coach was not used a lot, okay? And so I did not know what a recovery coach was. And I think because I was hanging with them all the time that I didn't even know they were recovery coaches because they were living a lifestyle of recovery, right? So all of a sudden I joined the Latino workforce program, which Hanet taught, right? And he said some amazing stuff one day. I mean, it was a person that was always in and out of jails, always in and out of some type of detox system or lack of systems and detoxes, which always led to more addiction. And he said something when I went to go to an interview process so I can become a licensed certified drug and alcohol.
We know that in recovery, our personal testimonies is deliverance for other people, right? So I don't mind disclosing my recovery story. I did a great job this past month at the Senate on talking about this bill on Section 35 with Ruth Balzer, Representative Ruth Balzer's bill H2066, the Act ensuring access to addiction services. I gave my testimony, right? My testimony was about me having to section my father, coming from the African-American community, Black from the hood. Sectioning somebody it's like taboo, like you're taking away their their livelihood. You're taking away their livelihood. Sectioning. So it was hard for me to section him because it was like I was taking away his livelihood. And my father's 65, an Army veteran. So it's like, you know, I'm sending, and I knew that I was sending him to MASCAP, to a prison. And I'm like, what is a 65-year-old man? How's a 65-year-old man going to recover in the period of 30 days while sending him to a prison? One of the things I mentioned was how psychologically counterintuitive that is, sending a person, never mind person in recovery, but a person, not person in recovery, but a person in crisis, right? But sending a Black older gentleman in crisis to a prison, right? How that's counterintuitive. And I mentioned that that for Black people, Black men especially, counterintuitive because of the disparity. You know, we're traumatized just hearing the words of prison and the disparity that we historically have had in prison, right? Or connection with prison. It's just sad. So my, you know, when I had to section him, you know, he was you know, it was a sad thing that I had to get to the point where I had to section him, right? And the only option was to send him to the prison. Like, it's like I don't have an option of sectioning him to a hospital. Or I have a option of sectioning him to a safe environment. The only option that I had was to section him to a prison because his crisis situation was such was so dire that he couldn't remain. He was a threat to himself and to the community. So, you know, I had to discuss, you know, seeing him in the courtroom and seeing the look on his face, the look of despair, the look of bewilderment, the sadness. It crushed me. It crushed me. And you know, when he, you know, would call, you know, I was just, you know, totally heartbroken. I was like tore down from for the whole process. Going to his house to get his cards to spend $125 off of his Social Security card just so he could use the telephone, right? And so that's not good quality care if you have to pay $125 while you're in a crisis situation to use the telephone, and you can only make about 3 or 4 phone calls because you can only talk to people for like 10 minutes, and then this call is being recorded. So that was it was sad, man. It was sad. It was damaging to him because he relapsed 2 days afterwards. He relapsed 2 days afterwards when he got out because he didn't recover. It was a temporary I'm gonna go all in and say, man, it was a temporary damaging because I can't say that he didn't live afterwards. Like he was in crisis because he was cutting himself he was cutting himself. And so, it did stop him from cutting himself. But as far as psychologically and recovery is concerned, it didn't really help him. Well, that's all that I really wanted to discuss. Just my experience on it. Like I said, I've been kind of I had a whole structured way of talking about this thing, but my point in just kind of saying things the authentic way was so people can really feel, the damage that even talking about it has done to me, right? Because I'm overwhelmed by Paul, but I'm also overwhelmed. My emotions are high intense, just thinking about what my father had to endure and what I had to endure by placing him in this type of inside of a prison to get help and support. One thing I really do want to mention lastly is that Massachusetts is the only place in the country left that house men in prison for Section 35 for crisis situations. Massachusetts is the only place in the country left, which is pretty sad because I think to myself as a state with Harvard College graduates and BU and BC and like the Mecca, Boston, Massachusetts, like the Mecca of recovery, that Massachusetts would have got it by now, that recovery, that treatment support inside of a prison with prison guards and doesn't work, right? When they changed when under the Baker administration, when they changed for women not to be able to be housed in prison, you would think that they would have said, well, let's bring men on too. And one thing that's really sad right now for me is discovering that the more that this bill comes out, the more advocacy comes out for it. People start coming out the woodwork that you would think would oppose it, but that you would think would be in support of it, but actually are coming out the woodworks to oppose it, right? And to place people in other prisons to get treatment, which is utterly ridiculous. Like I said, it's just psychologically counterintuitive to put anybody in crisis for substance use disorder inside of a prison, right? You're criminalizing the person without even saying anything. You're dehumanizing them because as a human being, when someone is suffering from a type of disease or pain from diabetes, or they're suffering from any other type of disease, they're placed in the hospital. They get in hospital, clinical, doctor, psychological whatever their needs is, they're getting the highest level of care for that, for their disease.
I think,
As
even when we
opposed,
look at our own treatment system, Massachusetts is blessed to have this really robust and really elaborate treatment system that not every state has. And I think even within that treatment system, having different types of programs and providers is really important. We don't want to homogenize our treatment system too much. We want to have standards. We want to make sure we do things the right way, but having different opportunities for people is really important. And we have a new program that I think kind of serves that need. So Gamma just opened a new program called the Carl E. Dollhouse at Evergreen Grove. And what we are is we're a co-occurring enhanced recovery home. And the co-occurring enhanced recovery homes have been around for a few years now, and I think they fill a really important need. But our new program is really different. It's a 16-bed COE-RRS for adult men with mental health and substance use disorders. But what makes us unique is we're on a therapeutic farm. So it's a 115-acre site. And the guys come here, they get treatment for their substance use and mental health conditions, but at the same time, they also help us operate this farm. And the farm is not a commercial farm. It's actually a livestock rescue program. So we rescue livestock from slaughter auctions, animals that retire from the entertainment industry, animals that are abandoned or are in really unfortunate situations. We bring them here to our farm, and the guys, while they're going through treatment, they take care of the animals with us. They learn how to care for the animals. They learn about a little bit about animal husbandry and how to, do this farm work. And it's a really interesting experience for them. It's interesting because the farm is really sort of in a lot of ways, the farm is a metaphor for recovery. And what I mean by that is last night out here in Gardner, Mass, it was about, 20 degrees. It was cold. And even though it was cold and it was snowing, at 8 o'clock last night, a whole group of guys had to go out to the barn. They had to break up the water. And we tell them that tomorrow night, if you wake up and you're not feeling so great, the horses still need to be fed. The hay needs to go out. We got to clean the stalls. And we do this day after day after day. And what they don't realize is they're actually learning resiliency. And they're learning that in their own recovery, down the road, that no matter what, there's going to be a handful of things they're going to have to do to keep themselves well every single day. And so we teach them via this metaphor. And then one day they turn around and they go, wait, I can do this. I can grind, I can do what I need to do every
I'm here to
day.
normalize that. I'm here to speak about that because often people like me who work in the field, there are many others, are embarrassed to speak up. I became a functional working addict. I was going to work every day. I was doing everything that was required, but then on the weekend I was partying. For the last 6 months, thanks to the help of Casa Esperanza and other programs, I've been practicing a harm reduction, which is what works for me. I also embrace harm reduction, and I'm glad many people spoke here about the multiple paths of recovery because it's different for everyone. So I'm glad you guys spoke about that. One of the things I wanted to mention and I look at my experience as a Latinx person who knows how to navigate the system and have worked in the system. This time around, it was so hard for me to surrender and say, you need to go get help. I thank God that I work for a company that supports me. I work for the Justice Resource Institute, Framingham Glass in Framingham, where we have an SSP program and do a lot of work on harm reduction. My organization supported me to get help and take advantage of the family leave, PFMLA. And it's okay to normalize that. And it's okay to go to your employer and say, I need help. And I did just that because we paid for that FMLA.
I get to, my goodness, I get to introduce Connie Peters, who is the Association for Behavioral Healthcare Vice President of Addictions. Connie has been a friend for 20 years. She has led the Massachusetts Coalition for Addiction Services, of which MOAR is a part of, and money for BSAS has grown. Well, Connie, you tell them, because this is an award for you, and I'm going to share everybody. Go ahead, Connie Peters.
Oh, I have to brag about myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm going to pass on the
We
brag.
love you. I will say she's been a great friend, a great leader. She leads that coalition with finesse. She tells it like it is. She works really hard. She researches, and with it, with 10, 12 other organizations, we have been able to secure and educate the legislators around low threshold housing, access to recovery, family residential homes, ATR, I just said that, 26 recovery centers. And thank you, Connie, for your leadership. And we have for you right here, and it says Connie Peters, MOAR, Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery, give Connie Peters the friend and leadership recognition on December 9th, 2021. What do you think about that, Connie?
Oh, Marianne, that's so nice. Thank you so much, really. You have failed to mention to everybody that you're doing this because I'm retiring.
Oh, I didn't want to face it.
Yes, I've after actually almost 21 years at the Association for Behavioral Health Care. We represent the providers of mental health and addiction treatment across the state. I cannot tell you how incredible this program has been tonight. And you've had so many incredible speakers. They're all very powerful. I just want to, I can't remember who said this, but about disclosing, that you're in recovery. That is so critical and so important to moving the addiction field forward, is to have people like members of MOAR who are willing to speak out and tell people about their stories of recovery. There's a lot of news all the time about how many people have addictions, or the mass and Cass area or whatever, but we don't have stories in the press about people who are in recovery. So Marianne and I have done, and the whole coalition has done a lot of work at the State House, and your legislators also love to hear about your stories of recovery, because they're the ones who are passing the budgets and the legislation that impact our addiction treatment system. MOAR has just been, Marianne in particular, because we've been friends for so long now, but MOAR has just really been an inspiration to me in my job. I personally am not a person in recovery, but I have had family members who did not recover. And, but basically, I'm very dedicated to my job. I'm leaving. I've been there for 21 years, and I'm, as I say, I have a lot of gray hair under this dye, but it's just time for me to go. And
the pressure. Lots of pressure.
I sure hope we can see everyone this year. I really miss our friends at Hope Orgullo and Valor. After all, it's La Navidad.
Oh, Abuelita, don't worry. We're going to see everybody this year and have a great time. Just like we did back in Puerto Rico. We had a great familia here, a recovery family, and we always have a good time when we're together.
Sí, but what about our primos y mi tía and all our friends back in La Isla?
Listen, it's okay. It's okay. We can just Zoom. I already got the password from the piñata over at Junior's house. And the good news is that I can wear my pajamas and just throw on a shirt and tie, and they will never even know.
Oh, Abuelito, that's true. At least on Zoom, I know you won't be sneaking any of that coquito.
Oh, no, not for me.
Oh, look who's coming in on Zoom right now from Puerto Rico. It's Seymour.
Oh, yeah.
Jingle bells, that smells, Robin Lady Day. That will be a lost since we have the Joker. Hey, Willow.
Hey.
This party started.
Oh, look, Abuelito, they're here. They're all here. How are you guys? ¿Qué está pasando?
Yeah. Let's hear who has been good and who has been a little malo. Right, Seymour?
Don't go there, Willow. I am a changed man. I have turned over a new leaf. I swear I'm a changed man.
Really?
Oh, wait a minute. Just 1 moment now. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here.
Here she goes.
Seymour, didn't I happen to see you at the the candy store at the mall last week buying Pixie Sticks.
Ooh.
I happen to be buying candy for my sick friend.
Oh,
But hey, by the way, isn't that candy store right next to the small shoe outlet? Dun, 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 dun. Weren't you coming out of it? I have pictures with several bags, I might add.
okay, okay. You got me. But let's focus on the positive, Seymour. I am practicing harm reduction. I only bought 2 pairs of shoes for myself. It was a BOGO. You know I couldn't resist. But the other 2 pairs I donated to the local clothing drive.
Wow, that's so great, Daphne.
Oh, thank you.
You did a great job. That's good. Harm reduction.
Harm reduction is best way. Great way to go, Daphne. I've been working on myself too this year.
Oh, really?
I've been taking a walk every morning.
Oh, wow.
And I've been eating her healthier at night too.
Oh, amazing.
And right now, I'm really trying to get more sleep at night. And it's a good routine, key to my recovery.
Oh, Susie and Daphne, that's great. But Simon, I love to hear about how you've been a good boy this year.
Well, thank you, Well. That's why I love you so much. I can't wait to eat your pateles. I'm glad someone has faith in me, Wello. Well, I've been really doing good. I cut down on sugar.
Oh,
I have a
wow.
little slip every now and then, like Miss Daphne with the shoes. But it's progress, not perfection, right? I even stopped drinking all those energy drinks and soda. I've been doing a lot of step work with this year in meditation. I'm really learning how to love myself.
Okay, okay. Hey, you know, Seymour, that I am very, very proud of you. It sounds like you have been doing your best this year. And anyway, it's Christmas. It's time to focus on the many blessings we have been given this year.
Amen. Amen. You got that right, Willow. Hey, Willow. Listen, can you please read us that story?
Oh, yes.
To read us?
Please read the story.
All right. You want me to read the book, okay? You know I love a good story, just like Abuelita's novelas.
Oh, I do like my novelas.
Okay, so this is how the story goes. Lay back, okay? 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the casa, not a creature was stirring. Hijo, ¿qué pasa? Los niños, they were all tucked away in the camas, some with pantalones y some with pajamas.
Oh, I like
That's
that.
it. Abuelita worked late in her big oficina, while el viejo, that's me, was shopping at the corner tienda, buying café and galleta a poner en la mesa.
Oh.
Este fue Santa Claus. While hanging the stockings con mucho cuidado in hopes that Saint Osentas would feel obligado to bring all the niños, both bueno y malo, Seymour, a nice bunch of dulce and other legados.
Oh.
Outside in the yard, there rose such a grito that I jumped to my feet like a frightened carrito. I ran to the window and I looked afuera, and who in the world do you think it era? It's Santa Claus in the sleigh in a big red sombrero. He came dashing along like a crazy bombero.
Oh, boy.
And put in his sleigh were 8 reindeers. Ay, Dios mío, I watched as they came, and their gordito hombre whistled and shouted and called them by their nombre. He said, hey, Pedro, hey, Ramo, hey, Calito y Moyo, hey, Joselito, hey, Hector, hey, Juanito, and Jim. He then, standing tall with his hand on his pecho, he flew to the top of our very own techo. With his round little belly like a bowl of avena, he struggled to squeeze down our old chimenea. Wow. Can you imagine that?
Wow. That's a tight fit.
All these stockings with lovely regalos, because none of the niños had been very malo.
No pow-pows.
And laughing out loud, he was very contento. He turned like a flash and he was calm like the viento. And I heard him exclaim, and this is verdad. He said, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a Feliz Navidad.
You know it would be so perfect right now.
Oh, I know, a new pair of shoes or Crocs or something.
Talking of pixie sticks?
No, a couple Bustelo and some flan.
No, guys. I wish Miss Debbie were here so she could play her guitar.
You better be careful what you wish for. You
Oh, Mary, come on in, guys. That's right.
Well, I remember Abuelito just like
everybody. Hey, I got some friends too.
Yeah,
Come on, guys.
where's your friends from Puerto Rico?
Vete. Vamos. Bermuda.
Well, I just
It's fun over here, Whippa.
Yes. Willow did a great job reading his story, and remember in the end it
Yes.
said, Merry Christmas to all. Y Feliz Navidad.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
think we
right.
should just sing it right now, right? Don't you think? Come on.
Yeah. Let's sing it. Let's sing it.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Epa, one more time. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
All right. Gotta love the puppet show. You know what? With that being said, I want to thank you guys all for being here, for sticking out till the end. And I want to thank all the speakers who came, who shared, whether it was from your heart or whether it was from the organization or whether it was from where you stand. Thank you for giving me the privilege and the honor to MC this event once again. And with that being said, the next voice you will hear is Marianne Frangoulis. Marianne, wrap it up.
And
señorita.
one more thing. And thank you so much. You are the greatest MC, Noel. However, Julie Bunch, do we have a winner tonight for the ugly clothes contest, the ugly holiday clothes contest?
Well, we didn't have a lot of people to participate this year, and I hope I'm not making any mistakes. If so, forgive me. But I think we are gonna go with Debbie.
And can we give Debbie's last name? There might be a couple of them.
Well, she just sang to us, so.
Oh, she just thinks, so we know which one. And she dresses the way I would like to. There we go. Debbie Flynn Gonzalez does it in 2 years. This is great.
No, oh yeah, that's right. Actually, that's kind of not fair. We're just gonna let her know it can't be 3 years in a row.
2 out of 3 ain't
Yeah,
bad this
Debbie,
week,
I'll
eh?
be watching. I'll be watching. It better not be a third.
I'm going with the record. I will listen too.
Very good.
Merry
Hey Debbie,
Christmas,
Debbie,
everyone.
I asked you, did you see what does the scarf match the pillow?
It does. Look at it. And I am in my pajamas officially.
Pocketbook that
The beauty of
matches
Zoom.
Congratulations, Deb. Recovery's real.
Congratulations. Congratulations, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Merry
night.
Christmas,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night, family.
Holidays. God bless you.
Bye,
Doing this
everyone.
again.
Good job, Mary Ann.
Bye,
Have a good
Taylor.
night.
Bye, Joe.
Everyone,
take care now.
Everybody will
Bye,
know
Jim.
it's time to come to Step Rocks. We're gonna let you know.
Bye,
Oh,
Steph.
good. Oh, Emily, how beautiful.
I'm trying to get off. Hold on.
Thank you.
Bye, Mary Ann.
Bye, Julia. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you all.
Love
Great
you
job.
too.
Lovely,
Amore.
lovely, lovely.
Or is that
Wonderful
Italian?
job. Good Love you all. Bye-bye. Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good. Great. Good stuff. So, all right. So thank you for the language interpretation, the ASL, the CART, the MC work, and everybody, our staff. Thank you, Keith. All good work. Great. Great. Thank you. Good stuff. Yes. Great. Good. Good, good, good. Happy 16th holiday celebration.